Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for coming and seeing this episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. I am Stewart Heath, your host, the founder and CEO of Harvard Grace Capital. Today we have my friend and new father, Brandon Cobb. We've known each other several years and part of the same group where we talk about investing in real estate. And this man is wise beyond his years, and I can't wait for him to share his story with you. Brandon, thanks for being here, bud.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to be here. I love the whole concept of this podcast and everything that you got going on. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Well, we're excited to hear your story. Brandon, when you think back over your career, and yours is not as long as mine, but you're very successful. And I've heard you talk about this some, but when you think about, was there a game changer that sort of put you on the path to where you are now versus the path you thought you were going to be on?
There's multiple game changers, and they come at different points. It's the very first was getting fired from my job. I
hear that a lot.
Guys, I did not have a hunger to be an entrepreneur. I don't have this story where I worked in corporate for 20 years. I thought that I, had this calling, and I just one day just said, up and quit. Right. My dream in college was medical device sales. There was something about the scrubs that were just really cool, wearing those every single day. You're in surgery. Like, how cool is that to be in that every single day? You're training hospital staff on how to utilize your products, and your products are making a difference in patients' life. I did a lot of rotator cuff and ACL reconstruction. So I sold anchors. I sold capital equipment like drills and saws and video equipment. I sold allograft tissue, if you needed to put some kind of like tissue in your body. So I loved what I did, man. It took me a long time to break into that career. It was not easy.
Right.
And one sunny Friday afternoon, my boss calls me in, 4:00, Starbucks over at West End, could smell the coffee, had a phenomenal day as a rep. And I swear, you ever had one of the days where if you work for somebody, you're excited to tell them about your day? That's what this was. And he fires me. And man, it didn't matter the hours I worked or the blood, sweat, and tears that I'd put in. It didn't matter, how much I love my job. But I had the Rookie of the Year sales award. No, you're a number to these companies. And so that was a life-changing moment where I learned that nobody was going to look out for my financial well-being but me. Nobody's going to. So that was the first big moment. I said, okay, 6-month ultimatum. Let me try to figure this out. The next was about a year into my entrepreneur journey, right? And any new entrepreneur remembers how excited you are when you first launch. Like you don't wake up and get out of bed. Like you launch out of bed. I was getting up 4 or 5 a.m. excited to work. Didn't even need an alarm clock. And I did that for about a year, and I learned just how much a young, motivated, single guy could work. And so for a year, I did nothing but work weekends, everything, because I loved what I did. I was out putting signs up, we buy houses, we invent new neighborhoods today. But back then it was just flipping houses. Yeah. And I'd put those up. I would go, and I had like my printer over in the side of the room, and I'd print 4,000 mailers out. And I'm talking about it's like one of those printers, not like the laser shoo. So I'm like every 2 hours I'm reloading 50 pieces of paper and doing that over a week to get all the mailers. And doing all the work. I'm out managing the projects, and I was wearing all the hats, and I got burned. No, I did not see a means to an end. I said, oh my God, I'm answering all the phones. I'm going on all the appointments. I am managing all the projects. I am not managing the bookkeeping. It was a complete disaster. But that difficulty forced me to make a change, which was joining a mastermind group and learning how to hire people. And I learned one of my most valuable lessons, which is hire what you're best at last. For me, I was really good at sales. I had a sales background. And so I hired the project manager position. First person I hired was someone to answer all the phones. hired a PM afterwards, and then, finally was able to build up and kind of release myself where, I wasn't, in the grind every single day. That was the second defining moment. The third was when I hired a mentor. Now, there's a difference between a coach and a mentor and a, mastermind group. Mentor is somebody who's available to you every single day, somebody that actually flies in and rides along with you. And this was really missing from what all the other educational products that I'd purchased, because I've spent over $200,000 on education, coaching, mastermind groups, courses. And this was a game changer because I'd hired somebody that had spent 8 years growing a real estate development company. And the owners ended up, he grew it and the owner sold it and got a 9-figure exit. That's 9-figure exit. And bringing him in, I mean, just in the first 2 months, completely changed the business because he had grown and done what we're trying to do. We focus on affordable entry-level housing products. We invent these neighborhoods and, we'll sell off the land. Sometimes we'll build the houses. But that was, I'd say, the third big game changer over about an 8-year span. Those were 3 pretty big moments that come to mind immediately. There's, it's probably some more that are sprinkled in there, but those are the big ones.
That's great. That's great. Is there anyone that you would say, other than losing your job, that was a bump in the road? Maybe didn't change your path, but if there's a bump, and tell us a little bit about how you dealt with it, how you got through, how you got to the other side of the bump.
Oh God, the bumps never go away.
No,
They just have more zeros on the end of them. It's kind of funny. So I remember when I was first starting my business, I sold all my retirement accounts to buy the first flip property because I didn't have any cash. I paid the penalty, the income taxes, all the crap just to buy this house and flip it. But luckily that helped me start my business. Don't recommend doing that. And then I ran out of money. And then on top of that, I racked up $98,000 in credit cards because what do you do after you run out of money? All to try to make this thing work. I was building something, but I wasn't cash flowing. I wasn't building something where cash was coming in faster than it was going out. Cash was going out faster than it was going in. And when you have cash going out faster than it's coming in, you're eventually going to run out of money. Right. And that had a $20,000 problem at the time. I remember it was $20,000. And I remember I was losing sleep. How am I going to pay these people? Oh my God. Just the heart palpitations, right? $20,000. Fast forward 3 years from that moment, I had a situation where I had it was a bulk buy of these investment properties, and my investor backed out last minute. I needed an additional $200,000. And I remember going dude, oh my God, I have a $200,000 problem now. Oh my God. What am I going to do? Where am I going to get $200,000 from? And I literally just called everybody I knew. And I don't know how, in a 4-day period, I found $200,000. I mean, you can do amazing things with the right proper motivation. It was funny because I remember in that moment looking back at my $20,000 problem from 3 years before going, oh my God, I can't believe I used to make a big deal about that. Now, I've got a $2 million problem. We had a lot of assets that didn't do well through the interest rate rise. And, we've got a lot of profitable projects now, but we had some projects that were not profitable. When you're developing $22 million worth of real estate every single year and you get an interest rate bump in the road, we had some losses. And so I remember, oh my God, we had $2 million in losses. Holy cow, we need to do something about that. So what did we do? We, informed everybody, came up with a game plan, solidified some future deals, transferred some equity into those deals. And, now we're solving the $2 million problem. And I remember looking back going, holy cow, I can't believe I was ever frustrated by a $200,000 problem. That's a joke. Right. And now I can kind of see where this is going. And I'm I guess here in a few years, I'll probably have a $20 million problem. But the problems never go away.
Might be a
So
$20 million problem. So
yeah. And you want, and it's funny, I think it was Grant Cardone. I heard him say something along the lines. He's like, I want $100 million problems. That's what I want. Like you got to pick and choose your problems. I don't want $5-10 million problems. I want $100 million problems. And it's like Louisiana, coon accent.
yeah,
And
that sounds like
funny. And
him. So
yeah.
as you were solving your $200,000 problem back in the day, did any of your investors try to squeeze you and take advantage of you, or did they just come in and sort of take over the position that the guy who left you hanging did?
New investors.
Yeah.
I didn't explain that. Well, I mean, I explained the timeline or what had happened, but surprisingly, no one took advantage. It was, I think, 4 investment properties we were buying, and I offered them a 12% interest rate, and they were like, "What?" They weren't getting paid that kind of money at the time
Right.
on any other investments, and they believed in real estate, and real estate was very hot at the time, right? The news is talking about it, and everyone
Yeah.
is talking about how their home prices are going up, and so it was very easy to raise
Yeah.
money during that time period. You didn't need to be a genius. And just reaching out to friends and family, and Lord and behold, found some new people. So sometimes it just, when one door closes in my life, when bad things tend to happen, it's so crazy. Another door always opens. If you can figure out how to overcome that obstacle, you grow in the process,
Yes.
and the skills that you take from that difficulty that you learn help propel you into the future or help you make more money. In that respect, I was like, dude, I just didn't try hard enough to raise money. Like, there's a lot more money out there that I can raise. I just haven't been putting forth the effort into it. And so that difficult time, that setback, is what actually allowed me to have future success. So every single setback is a blessing if you can figure out how to see it that way.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Brandon, how do you tackle learning new things? What are your sources of information? Um, and I've changed the way I've asked this question because most of the entrepreneurs I have on here, I mean, they love learning new things. They're lifelong learners. They absorb information. And so now I'm just, what do you learn from? Is it the Wall Street Journal? Or are you reading the National Enquirer to stay, tell us how you stay current.
Yeah, my brain, it took a while for me to figure this out, but I tend to obsess about a particular subject, and I read a lot on it, watch lots of YouTube videos. If there's courses available, maybe I'll purchase those. But have to be interested in it. And so for me, I've noticed that one of the keys to my learning experience is psyching myself up about it, creating some kind of leverage where I'm like excited to learn about the thing. Recently I bought some courses and I read some books on how to be a dad. The New Dad's Playbook by, I forget what NFL player wrote that book. I bought the Taking Care of Babies course, how to get your kids like to sleep at night. And I was, the way I got myself psyched up about that, well, I had a kid on the way, right? It was very relatable. The timing was really good about that. I was excited about the kid, and I was excited to give this kid the best possible experience. And I knew that I did not want to be like all the other parents who complained about middle of the night and staying up. And so I did the work. I read the books. I took the courses. And as a result, like, my kid's 8 weeks old and he's sleeping through the whole night.
Still
Took
alive,
6
right?
weeks.
The kid's still alive, right?
He's still alive. He's still alive, but 8 hours. He's sleeping 8 hours from like 10:15 to 6:30 a.m. every morning. And people are like, how did you do that? And I followed the course. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of effort, but getting myself excited about it. I'll tell you another subject. I like to stay abreast of everything that's going on through your kind of usual news sources. Like, I don't like to pay attention much to like the mainstream media, but friends, family. I like to get raw data from people. Like, during like the election times, I'll actually call people on both sides and I want to hear your opinion, who you're voting for and why. I like to get raw data from actual people that are out there. I like to get out into the world and see what is actually going on. That's always served me a lot better, especially making financial decisions, than watching what's on Fox News or CNN. So
Right.
that's another key that I do. Right now, one of the subjects that I'm really interested in that, I bought a subscription service to and I'm just devouring is artificial intelligence and blockchain and the future and what's coming. Because let me tell you, nobody knows what's about to happen over the next 6 years. The next 6 years, by 2030, because of robotics, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, this whole world, you will not recognize it. It is going to change faster and bigger than any time in history. It'll make what the internet did look like a complete joke. We're not going to be able to see everything in the next 5 years. And so I'm excited about that because I see what ChatGPT is doing. I see the adoption of the blockchain. There are more cryptocurrency accounts that are being created faster than internet computer accounts back in the 90s and early 2000s. So it's getting adopted faster than the internet is. This all shows you that there are some big changes coming, and I want to get ahead of that because I want to see how I can, make some money on it, but be prepared for it and get ahead of this. So I like to utilize technology in a way and be like the tip of the spear. So I try to be an early adopter with newer technologies and use it a lot because those who were most familiar with the internet when it first launched out and were playing with it and addressing it, got to experience the greatest benefits from it. And so I am psyched about the future. It is. I think we're transitioning from the information age into the exponentialist age where all technology is just going to go exponential when you can put these AI bots in it. Because people don't realize that what artificial intelligence basically is infinite human workforce.
Right.
Our GDP growth is how the economy changes. We grow at 2-3% per year. Well, what is GDP growth? Gross domestic product. That's how many goods and services there are in the world per person. And each person is actively creating those goods and services, right? But they can only do so much work. You can only serve so many cups of coffee at the coffee place. You can only create so many Amazon products. But when you can introduce robotics and artificial intelligence, you have this infinite human workforce where all of a sudden it is realistic to have 20-30% GDP growth in a year. I mean, imagine all AI self-driving semi-trucks taking products everywhere. You've got unlimited logistics everywhere that it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's safer than a human being driving it. You've got workers, robots. Amazon now employs more robots than it does human beings, creating products and services at an exponential pace. And it is going to just blow everyone's mind what's about to happen. And so I get excited about whatever topic it is that, I'm trying to learn. I first figure out how do I psych myself over to this and how do I get myself excited? That's helped me a lot in my learning journey.
That is, I bet there's a lot of people who are going to hear this and think, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And speaking about the whole AI thing, I actually think, and you're right, I agree with everything you just said. I've been spending a lot of time learning about AI the last 6 months or so. And I'm still intimidated by it. But, you and I are both in the real estate business. And I think it's going to transform that. And here's how I think I think blockchain is going to make it commonplace for our investors to be able to trade their equity interests in a real-time market, just like the stock market, except it's real estate. And that's going to create liquidity for us, which will bring us a whole slew of new investors. And I think it's actually going to come out of the backside of the stock market. They won't see it because they'll be out there growing the S&P at your 20 and 30% GDP growth. But we're going to get a lot of those investors because of liquidity. It's the only thing that's been stopping a lot of folks who invest with us now. And anyway, that's my 2 cents prediction.
Well, it's funny you say that because I have a guest, one of my buddies, Matt, here locally in Nashville. He's got a company that he just launched where they are breaking down these properties into micro shares, like exactly what you said. So, in our world, when you syndicate a deal, usually like 50,000,
Sure.
usually like the minimum investment that's going to
Yeah.
go to. Well, he's dividing it up where, you might be able to purchase a share for like $1,000 and just have that one share, and you can diversify across a ton of different assets, and you can sell that share, like you said, across the blockchain
Yeah. Kind of
technology.
like a
Where we're going.
Rive.com is doing. Yeah.
Oh, and if
Yeah.
you look at Boston, I think it's Boston Robotics. They've got some amazing. If you see the Tesla robot that came out, oh my God, could you imagine if robots were building houses? How quickly you would be able to
Right.
build that house. I mean, that's going to be a complete game changer.
And we need it because we've got a 20-year housing shortage in this country.
That's wild. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is the changes that are coming to this are all property management, having AI speak and unlock doors and show properties. I mean, it is going to be absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
I can already see all the people that are about to be replaced. And, some people think that's a bad thing. But when you have that much value creation in the
Sure.
economy, in the market, everybody benefits. I think a lot of
Yes.
people forget that, the average American lives better than like Rockefeller did back in the day. And he's
Right.
like the Elon Musk. He was worth $300 billion, him and Andrew Carnegie, $350 billion a piece. And, he didn't have air conditioning. He didn't have, penicillin or modern medicine or any of this stuff. So your average American, we're trending the right way. So don't get too scared when we say this AI stuff is coming.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, everybody's always been afraid of technology changes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could beat that horse to death, but let's pivot here a little bit. What I like to ask my entrepreneurs is, most of the time, the successful people, they get cash and they don't just leave it in their company. They do other things. So I want to hear about the asset classes. We're not talking about amounts or account numbers or even specific stocks. What do you do with your personal investable cash?
Yeah, great question. Well, number one is always have an emergency fund. Don't ever do that. If you don't have a year's worth of money saved up in an account for a rainy day, don't do that. So number one, I always make sure I've got my emergency fund set up. Two, I like to invest it into depreciating assets where I get some depreciation. So we're in the land development business. We develop land and we sell it to the Lennars and the D.R. Hortons of the world. These are affordable housing products, and there's no depreciation there. So I like to take my funds and I'll invest it in a lot of other people's syndications who
we're getting an additional guest on the podcast here. So
oh yeah, no, he's bringing a little crew man in here.
All right,
that's fatherhood. But so depreciation to offset a lot of it. One of the things that I like to do too, that's great for just monthly passive income, is private lending. Private lending on fix and flip projects. We own a construction company. I used to flip lots of houses. I like to lend money to people who are flipping houses to get like monthly cash flow that's coming in. That's a really good way. I own some rental properties that I rent out, that I hold, and I get pretty good rental rates on it, but I'll borrow that equity and, use it for whatever, I'm wanting at the time. Like, right now, and again, I'm not like a big crypto guy, but, I bought some Bitcoin. I took some equity out of a property and bought some Bitcoin with it because I think that, Bitcoin's about to have a really good run here in 2025. And I think there's a lot of long-term growth. And so I like to look at what the market is offering. Most of my stuff though is in real estate. And I've kind of got it diversified among a few different asset classes in real estate.
I love the way you said that because real estate is much more than just one thing. I mean, there's the development, there's the construction, and then there's the stabilized income stuff, which is kind of what we specialize on. But here you are, you're on the development side, and you're doing a little bit of all of it. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Now there's I diversify, but I like to invest in things that I either I can preferably that I understand everything. I never invest in anything that I don't understand, and I prefer to invest in assets that I have some kind of control over, where I can control the value, not just said, hey, I put some money into Bitcoin, but that's a very small minority of like what my portfolio looks like. But that's a big thing, and that's why I really like real estate, is because you have the ability to force appreciate the value through some kind of like asset play.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Brandon, we're coming to the end here. The last question I like to ask is if you were mentoring somebody or somebody just wanted to follow in your footsteps, what one nugget of advice would you give them?
You know, be very clear on the life that you want to build and start making it a reality today. Don't wait until you have a ton of money. If I were to ask you or a whole room of people, hey, if you won the lottery, what would you want to do? Or, what would you do if you wanted, were making millions of dollars every year? It says the same stuff. I did this in the room. I think I did it in LA. I asked the question, what would you do? And people said, spend more time with family, take my kids out more often. And the funny thing is, the answers they gave, give more to, charity. These are things that you don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to do. When I got very clear on my why and my purpose, which is to create as many life experiences with those that I love, I realized I don't have to have a ton of money to do that. Just with 4 weekends a year for the last, since I was 20, I think I've been doing this. My brother, sister, and I do an annual sibling trip, and we go somewhere on one of their bucket list or my bucket list. Like we just got back from Sedona, Arizona, hiking all the red rocks and everything. Oh my God. Like the look on my sister's face when we were hiking and going through, she freaking loved it. My mom and I, we went to, we went to San Antonio this past year, the Alamo. She's a history teacher. So she's taught for 25, 30 years, but never really had the money to travel and do things. She was raising 3 kids. And so we've been going every year somewhere that she's taught for 3 decades, but never got to actually go to. I mean, she freaking loves it. My dad, every year we do something on his bucket list. He's a big bourbon fan. So we've done the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. We've gone down, done the Whiskey Trail and seen like the history behind it and everything. And, it's just an opportunity, 4 weekends a year. And I'll go somewhere with my spouse. On top of all this, I also like to take like 4 weeks off and travel and just go somewhere abroad. Not going to be doing that for a little while, I think, because of the kid. That is taking 4 weeks off and just travel. That might require a little bit of money and a little bit of time freedom from stuff. But those 4 weekends absolutely are the number one thing I look forward to every single year. And I would challenge everyone to if you did have the money, what would you do? And look for ways to start doing that now, as opposed to waiting to retirement or whatever.
Right. I love that. Sort of start living now.
Yeah. It was funny. I had this guy, I think Maurice Philogene was his name, on my podcast, and he had this podcast called Try Life On. I said, what's the name of that part? I love that. They try life on like you're trying on a suit or you're trying on an outfit. You can try these different things on in life and see what sticks, what you really like or what you really enjoy or what gives you really a lot of fulfillment. And you can choose to hang out with it and continue to do it if you want to.
I love it. Brandon, thank you for joining us here today. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, talk with you more, how would they do that?
We've got a website, hbgcapital.net. It's pronounced Harry Bob Gary Capital.net. If you're somebody who's interested in learning more about investing in affordable entry-level housing developments, if adding land to your portfolio is something you're interested in, you can go check out. We got a bunch of free resources. There's a book on that website, 100 questions investors ask before investing. You can grab that book. I wrote that book because I had one of our investors reach out and he said, hey, I got a buddy who lost all of his money in a real estate deal. Can you help him out? And it became very evident on that call that he lost all his money because he was very green. He did not know the questions to ask or how to vet the operator, how to vet the deal. And I left that call thinking, man, if I could just prevent this from happening to one other person, what would that look like? And I'm convinced is had he had that book and was able to ask those questions, he wouldn't have lost his money. Questions unlock the answers that we need to make more informed investment decisions. So you can grab that on our website. We've also got our own podcast. You've been on it, Recession Resistant Real Estate Radio. You can check us out there as well.
I love it. It's a really good podcast as well, folks. I encourage you to go check that out. And we'll make sure that website is in our show notes. Brandon, once again, thank you for being here. And thank you to the audience for watching this episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. Come back and see the next episode. Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.